importantly, my Lords, it is also the right thing to do.
I very much agree with what the noble lady has just said. Could I say one thing to start, which I hope has the unanimous approval of the House, and that is it's very good to see Andrew Mitchell back in the government as Minister for Development. He did so much in the past, as the noble Lord Bruce mentioned, and we look forward to what he will contribute in the future. In all conscience, he has inherited a very difficult position. I'm sure in this debate there's going to be an array of financial numbers of one kind or another, and they're very important. But crucial as they are, I would like to concentrate on some of the casualties that the world is suffering from our failure to meet the global health challenges. It's a measure that perhaps the noble Lord Hannan might agree to. I declare my interest first as an ambassador for UNAIDS, but hasten to add that my views I express, the views I express, are very much my own. But I will concentrate, if I may, on HIV/AIDS because it establishes so much of what is wrong at the moment. AIDS is one of the deadliest pandemics of our time. 36 million people have died so far from AIDS. 36 million. Every minute a life is lost to AIDS. The fallout from COVID-19 and from the war in Ukraine has hit the AIDS response worldwide, and the result is that progress against the HIV pandemic has stalled. Risks have increased, resources for the response have reduced. Worst of all, I think, the aim of eliminating HIV as a public health risk by 2030 is very, very much in doubt. I was in Geneva a week or two ago talking to the health organisations there, and I'm bound to say there was not much confidence that we would, on present policies, meet that particular target. So, my Lords, one of the problems has been that domestic funding for HIV response is low. It is low in low and middle income countries and has fallen for 2 consecutive years. Progress in ensuring all people living with HIV are accessing life-saving antiretroviral treatment has also stalled. The number of people on HIV treatment grew more slowly in 2021 than it has over a decade. I think it is important to mention this. There's an important difference to the position today and the position that there was, for example, in the 1980s. In the 1980s, we had no medicines, no way of combating HIV. It was, in effect, a death sentence. We obviously used advertising and every other means to warn people. Only yesterday a man came up to me in this house and thanked me on behalf of a whole range of other people for that advertising, which he said had saved his life. And I think probably it did save many, many lives. But nothing like the lives that can be saved by antiretroviral drugs. And the really sad thing is that although antiretroviral drugs lead to a normal, a useful, a full life after treatment, we are not using the full potential of those drugs. That's the real tragedy of the situation. It's so different from where we were before. Then we didn't have the means. Now we have the means, and what do? We don't use the means. And I think that that is something that this government should address. I have to say, another issue which has come up and which has been part of it all has that we have not seen the end of the, or even the beginning of the end, of the discrimination that has perpetuated this pandemic. Laws that punish consensual same-sex relations, something like, 68 countries now have criminal laws against it. These are not something that this government can do about it in the sense of taking action themselves. And I seek to persuade people as I speak outside this country that Britain has done a great deal since the really serious days when it was the case that we followed such policies. But I think that we can take all action possible to combat the position. I think one position also I would like to raise, and that is the change which has taken place as far as the victims of AIDS are concerned. It used to be the case, it's still portrayed on television as the case, that all the victims are young men, and it is certainly true that in the past all the victims, or a majority of the victims, had been young men, and it was a very tragic sight to see as you went round the hospitals and you saw bed after bed occupied by young men who were going to die. But today we have a situation where women have progressively taken a bigger part in the victim total, and most tragic of all, so have children, small children, 1 million, sorry, I've got that wrong, 100,000 who have died in the last 12 months. All those things, I think, need to be taken into account. So, on current trends, we will miss the United Nations target of ending AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. And the result of that, let us be absolutely clear what the result of that will be. The result of that will be that there will be more AIDS-related deaths, there will be more infection. And the only tragedy is, the real tragedy is that we could face that, we could combat that, we could defeat that. My lords, wealthy countries need, and we are a wealthy country, wealthy countries need to remember that what is at stake is thousands of deaths and new infections, all preventable. What is at stake is the end of a pandemic, and a pandemic which goes on and on. Beating pandemics is ultimately a political challenge. We can end AIDS by 2030, but only if we are bold in our actions and in our investments. We need courageous political leadership, and we need for people worldwide to insist that their leaders be courageous.
My Lords, I too would like to thank the